Okay, hi, hello everybody. If there is anybody watching, my name is Lowry. Welcome to my channel. This is the first video on my channel, so that's exciting. My name is Lowry. I'm a knitter and a crafter from the northeast of England. I live in North Yorkshire and I spend an obscene amount of time knitting, and I probably spend just as much time watching these sorts of videos, so I thought I might as well make them. So welcome to the first episode of my knitting podcast. We can do more introduction stuff another time. We don't need to do that right now. We're going to follow a similar format to kind of other videos that you've probably seen. I'm going to start with my acquisitions. No, I'm not. I'm going to start with my finished objects, and then I'll do my current whips, my knitting whips, and then I'll do any acquisitions, future plans, whatever I decide I want to shove in there. So I'm going to start with my recent finished objects. I've kind of only got one recent finished object, which is what I'm wearing. This is my cloud blouse by PetiteKnit. I feel this might be a slightly PetiteKnit heavy episode, so I apologise in advance. I do knit things other than just PetiteKnit patterns. But this is my cloud blouse. More top, less blouse, I would say. I didn't opt for the 2 strands of mohair that are recommended in the pattern because I'm quite sensitive to mohair and I don't think that would work very well for me on my skin, kind of just 2 strands of mohair. So what I did opt for instead was 1 strand of Knitting for Olive, the Dusty, is it called the Dusty Artichoke, Dusty Violet? They're purple but not the unicorn purple. I'll put it up somewhere. And 1 strand of Cardiff Cashmere Brush Light, which was quite the purchase, in their colour Muji. I love both of those yarns. I'm not going to be using Cardiff Cashmere on a regular basis, but I wanted to use something a little nicer for this, and something that would kind of give me a fluff, but that wouldn't be too itchy on my skin. And I couldn't quite find anything that matched the Knitting for Olive purple that I already had in stash. Quite the same as the Muji did. It does have this slightly, I don't know if you can, is it going to focus on that? This slightly sort of heathered look. But I like that. I think it's really cool. And I really love the colour. I don't think I made any modifications to the pattern aside from the change in my yarn choices. I kind of followed the instructions for my size. I don't think I paid attention to how long it said to knit the body. I just knitted until I was happy with the length. I wear a mix of like high rise and low rise jeans, so I just decided to keep knitting until it would fit on all of my jeans. I'm trying not to wear it too often, to be honest, because it has cashmere in it and I don't want it to kind of pill up really quickly, but it's so soft. So I'm struggling. I've worn it to work so many times already in the last couple of weeks. But I don't think I have anything else to say about this. It's a popular pattern, so you've probably heard about it before. It is, as I said, kind of less, it's less blouse and more top. It still has a really nice drape to it from the cashmere, but it's not quite blouse. It's somewhere in between blouse and sweater. I do have one other finished object, or something that I kind of finished fairly recently. I finished it this side of the new year, and that was my, again, PetiteKnit. I did warn you. This is my Sophie shawl by PetiteKnit. Every man and his dog seems to have one of these at this point, and so I jumped on the bandwagon. It's a lovely pattern. It's a really clever, ingenious but quite simple pattern, really good for stash busting. I decided to knit it because I had 2 balls of Gepard Woolia in their colour wheat in stash. I'd ordered them to do the duplicate stitch on a jumper for my dad that I made for Christmas. He's a really big Bolton Wanderers fan, and I embroidered the Bolton Wanderers Football Club logo on the back of the jumper. But that logo is supposed to be more like a true white, and this looked more white online, and then when it arrived, I don't know if you can see, it's kind of cream but it's got this pink undertone. So it wasn't right for what I'd ordered it for, but I actually decided that it was a nice colour for me, I think. It goes with a lot of my winter coats, so I just thought, you know what, I don't actually own a scarf that I really wear or use at the moment, so I'll knit a scarf. This is probably slightly smaller than the smallest size in the Sophie Shawl pattern. I think I was just under the meterage that you need for the smallest size, but the pattern is great for kind of stash busting because you can just increase until you've got through about half of your yarn, and then start decreasing, which is exactly what I did. And it still fits and works really well, I think. Just kind of toss it over my shoulder, and it gives me an extra bit of warmth in the winter. I live, as I said, in England, in the northeast of England, so it gets cold, but not particularly cold. If anyone lives in a particularly cold climate, you know, it's kind of nothing compared to that. So this serves me just fine. Okay. Those are my 2 finished objects. I feel like I kind of whizzed through those. Maybe I was a little bit nervous. But I will now talk about my current whips. So typically I only have 3, a maximum of 3 whips on my needles and projects on my needles. I've currently got 2 and I have plans for a 3rd, so that'll kind of be my limit. We will start with the one I have made the most progress on. Once again, we'll get it all out of the way in one go. Once again, PetiteKnit. These are the penny gloves. Again, everyone seems to have made these as well. I also don't own any wool gloves that I particularly wear. I also don't own anything that's fingerless, and I find that my fingers and my smaller digits get really cold in the winter, including like indoors and when I'm in the office and things. So I decided I was going to use some leftover yarn that I had and do a bit of a stash busting project. Can you tell that I have favourite colour? I'm wearing a lot of purple today. I do like purple, an awful lot. So this is my first finished one. I don't know if you can see that, we are not going to talk about my tension issues in this. I have not quite mastered knitting in the round on such small projects. So I don't do this very often. I don't really knit socks. I have knitted a couple of socks a couple of times, and I've never finished a pair. I have a very bad case of second sock syndrome. I really don't enjoy casting on the second sock. So I have 2 socks, I think, that belong to 2 separate pairs and don't have a match, and I can't really wear them together. So I don't knit in the round on small projects very often. I prefer to use double pointed needles when I do, as opposed to magic loop. My magic loop, if this laddering looks bad, my magic loop is horrific. So my tension when I change needles is not ideal. I'm hoping some of that will block out. I'm not convinced all of it will, but it's kind of a practical project. I want something to keep my hands warm, and it's stash busting. So here's my, there we go. There's my penny glove number 1 so far. And then I did, when I cast this one off yesterday actually, I made myself cast on the next one because I knew if I didn't I would probably not cast it on ever. And it is getting towards the middle of February now, so I'm not going to need gloves for too much longer, and I would like to have these off my needles before we get into spring proper. So I cast on the next one. Don't know if you can see my little stitch marker there. I got these for Secret Santa at work, and they're little ducks, and they're adorable. I love them. So hopefully that'll be a nice quick easy knit. I am using 3mm needles. Oh, I should say the yarn. The yarn is Mohair yarn, is that how you say it? And it's their merino wool in the colour Anemone, I think it is. It's their light purple. And I bought this ages ago for my first ever knitting project, which was not the most sensible first knitting project. It was the Darling Wrap by Knitting for Olive. Don't know if you can see the book in the background. This is my Knitting for Olive book. We can talk about that another time, but it's a bottom-up wrap cardigan, and it was not the most sensible thing for me to pick for my first kind of knitted garment. I've been knitting for a long time. I learnt to knit when I was kind of 8 years old, but that was my first sort of proper garment, and probably not the best pick. But anyway, I did it, and it fits mostly, and I wear it mostly. But this was just leftover yarn I had. I fear that I'm still going to have more of this yarn left over once I finish these gloves. These gloves are not taking up as much yarn as I thought they would. So I might knit sort of a little, like a double knitted headband maybe, that I can wear. Like a thin one, not necessarily one for sort of keeping your ears warm, but one for holding hair back, I guess. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what I decide to do with the rest of that. Okay, next work in progress. There's so many ends. Okay, this looks like a whole lot of nothing. It's going to be the Braidy loop sweater by Other Loops. We're done with PetiteKnit now, by the way. Yay! Moving on to another designer. Currently, this is just sort of the cabled portion. I am sort of following this pattern with blind faith because reading it, I can't really visualise the construction, but from what I can gather so far, so the sweater, I'll see if I can put like a picture up or something. The sweater has these two cables that run all the way along the back, along the sleeve, all the way along kind of the back, down the other sleeve. So you start by constructing those first. You sort of start with a provisional cast on in the middle, and then you work outwards either way for the shoulder, and then I assume I'm going to pick up for the yoke to form the kind of wide rib pattern that's on the body. This pattern doesn't have a huge number of sizes, so if you want something a bit more form-fitting, then this might not be the pattern for you. This is the sort of pattern that I think works well if you're comfortable with having quite a lot of positive ease, or not being too particular about how much positive ease you have. We'll see how mine works out. I am on gauge exactly, but I have not knitted cables in a very long time, and I've not knitted a garment with cables ever. It's only like 2 long cables, so we'll see how that goes. But I don't know what that will do to my tension. Yeah, I'm excited about this, although it kind of looks like a whole lot of nothing right now. The yarn I'm using is more Gepard. I do like Gepard. This is the Gepard My Wool, and I will put the colour number up on the screen because I can't quite remember what the number is. But it's a really lovely, slightly muted light blue. It's a little bit like an ice blue, but not too green, not too cool leaning, so I think it suits me really well. And I think it'll make a good addition to my wardrobe. It's a DK weight, and it's quite a true DK weight, I find, so it was quite easy for me to hit gauge. I think that's all I have to say about that. Okay. I think I'm now going to talk about my acquisitions, upcoming plans. I've got one acquisition to show you, well, no, a couple of acquisitions to show you, and one plan in the works. I'll do the plan first. So I got this wool from a hand dyer. It's from the Knitting Gift Shop, and I got this at Yorkshire Yarn Festival last year in November, I think. It's a DK weight hand dyed yarn. It's another kind of dusty mid blue, a little bit like a jeans blue, I guess. It's a really lovely colour, and it's Falklands merino wool, and I bought it because I used to live in the Falklands when I was younger. My family were posted there briefly, and we had a great time, lots of great memories. So I bought that yarn, and it sat in my stash for a couple of months because I didn't quite have plans for it. Typically when I buy yarn, I will buy it because I've got a project in mind, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do with this when I bought it. I knew I was going to make some sort of sweater quantity with it, and that it would probably be a cardigan. But I landed on the Solene cardigan eventually. I loved it when it came out, and I knew I wanted to knit it, but I didn't really know what colour I wanted to knit it in. And I still have so many other colours that I would love to knit that cardigan in, but we're going with this for now. This is my swatch. I don't know if you can see. Let's see if it's gonna focus. You gonna focus? Yay, there we go. So it's got this sort of slight semi-solid striping or colour to it, and my swatch is slightly fluffy because I ordered for the first time some Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair. I managed to get into a shop in London and have a feel of this, and I think I've decided that I can probably cope with this, particularly when it's held with something else that is quite soft. The mohair doesn't really itch me too much in this swatch, and this is a really good match actually. Yeah, it's a really close match, and I think will hopefully help smooth over any mild inconsistencies in the yarn. I think I am going to try and alternate my skeins as I knit of the DK, of the hand dyed yarn. I've never done that before either, but I think I'm going to give it a go and see if that helps. I don't really want it to stripe too much, so we'll see. But that's my next plan. I will probably cast this on. I do normally have 3 or a maximum of 3 projects on my needles, and this would be the 3rd, so I think I will go ahead and cast this on. It's also such a nice colour, I think, for spring, and it's not too itchy. It's quite soft actually, so I'm excited to wear that. I'm excited to have another little bow tie cardigan. I've got one already, and I love it so much. I wear it all the time during summer, so I think I will wear this one all the time as well. So that's kind of my upcoming plan. And one recent acquisition is this Dusty Dove Blue mohair from Knitting for Olive. I have got one other acquisition as well. So this is my other acquisition. This is more Knitting for Olive. I was having a Knitting for Olive fun time apparently while I was buying yarn recently. This is the heavy merino in the soft cognac. I actually didn't pick this out. So this is for my partner. He picked it out. He is a trainee solicitor, so he wears kind of business wear into the office, and I knitted him a sweater vest before he started his training contract, which he wears quite regularly. And I knitted that in whatever their dusty green is called, the really popular colour. Maybe that's the dusty artichoke and not the purple. Whatever the green is called, I'll put the name up on the screen. I knitted his first sweater vest in that, so I know he can cope with knitting full of heavy merino. His skin is quite sensitive, I would say. And he picked this colour out. He decided he wanted another sweater vest when I asked him what he would like me to make him. And we went through some patterns, I showed him some ideas, and he landed on the Tulip loop vest, I think it's called, from Other Loops again. That is another pattern again that doesn't have a huge number of sizes. In fact, I think it might only have 3 or 4. So depending on how much positive ease he's willing to tolerate, I might have to modify that a little bit. We'll see. That's future Lowry's problem. It's not my problem right now. But I bought some balls of this to knit him a sweater vest. And I think he'll look real snazzy in it. It's not quite my colour, I don't think. But it is a really, really lovely brown. And it suits him really well. I think he'll look great. Okay. That is it for my projects, finished objects, acquisitions, etc. That might have been quite a short podcast. I might have talked quite quickly. We'll find out when I edit it if it's acceptable or not. I hope someone is watching. That would be fantastic if there is someone watching. If you are and you would like to say hello, please do leave me a comment. Let me know where in the world you're watching from, what you're knitting at the moment, if you've been knitting any of the projects that I have just finished or that are on my needles. That would be exciting. I'm anticipating that I will make a podcast episode maybe every month, and I've got a couple of other videos in mind. I think I'm going to make a video about a knitting bingo card that I'm going to make for this year, something that I think will keep my knitting fun and exciting and challenging. So yeah, we'll see. But I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. I hope you get to do lots of knitting. I hope you never lose yarn chicken and that your yarn skeins are always the same dye lot. Okay, bye.